Right guys, welcome back to another Big Al's chat. And today is quite an important video for me because really this is going to be reference for myself to go back to kind of see my own plan of where I want to go with my training. But also it's an opportunity for me to talk to you and tell you the way things are going to go in the future. Now at the moment, as you know, I do a training for Valhalla series that will continue as it is at the moment. However, 3 weeks ago, I hurt my back. So I pulled all my lower back and I've hurt my hips as well. This is a recurrent injury that I've been suffering from for 20 years now. But I'm finally kind of sick of it. It's taken me 20 years of suffering on and off, two or three times a year. And I'm just sick of it limiting my deadlift and my progression on the deadlift. Because when it goes, not only am I, kind of lose any progress I've made on the deadlift for a while and I have to take some time off before going back in, it also affects my squat and it just generally gets in the way of life. It really runs you down, okay? Now, this video is all about how I'm going to work around that and how now I am just so focused and determined to match my potential. I know what I can get in certain lifts. I know what my muscularity and my strength in other areas equates to on the main compound lifts. I've spoken to many experienced powerlifters and other guys involved in competitive strength events, and they all agree. They all have said independently what I should be getting on the lifts, and it's about, as I say, it's about time I hit my potential. And so really what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be changing my training ground to a degree, which is then going to last literally lifelong. These are lifelong changes and plans and adaptations that I am now in a position to be able to do and take seriously, because obviously now I've got my home gym and the time to work in here and do what I want. Now I can finally commit to building my body and working with what is naturally a very big frame to achieve what I know I can achieve. Now the first lift that we can talk about, we'll talk about the deadlift maybe last because that's the most complicated aspect, and it will lead to actually a new video series on here which will be great for beginners and also advanced lifters alike, but it will really have a real benefit to those guys who I know a few of the guys on here have either taken a long break from lifting, have come back, or are brand new to the game, or just have really never been taught how to lift correctly, because the series, as I'll go into in a bit, is basically going to be me stripping down everything to the basics, starting again, working out my technique and style, working out how I want to lift, and doing accessory exercises to build everything up to get to where I know I need to be, whilst protecting myself from these recurrent injuries that I seem to get. However, the first lift what we're going to talk about, it's the simplest one to talk about, is bench press, okay? On bench press, I'm more than capable of doing 250 kilos, which is just over 550 pounds. I know that, obviously 9 years ago, I tore my right pec. The thing about it is I do seem to be somewhat injury prone. I admit that, part of it is, it's not really because of my body, but because of my mind. I'm so aggressive with my lifting. I'm so, basically my mind's tougher than my body, and I force my way through injuries, I force my way through pain, and in some ways that's a fantastic thing because it means I'm hitting my potential and I'm really working hard. But at times, if you don't rein it in, so to speak, it can lead to injuries, because you train when you shouldn't be training, and you really are pushing yourself beyond 100% a lot of the time. Now, as I say, 9 years ago, I did tear my right pec. It was quite a nasty tear. It didn't require surgery, but it was borderline. It was definitely very close to needing it. I went black and blue from here into my bicep. It was quite a horrific injury, and it took my bench from what was at the time then being able to double 180 kilograms, which is around 400 pounds. It went from that to literally not even be able to lift my own arm. I had to restart my lift completely from the beginning, much like how I'm going to do with deadlift. It took a while for me to be able to move a 20 kilogram bar to get to where I am now, where at the moment my strength, I've done a 160 easy recently, but it's around the 170 mark now, and I'm in sort of hair's width, so to speak. I can almost grab it, it's very tangible. getting that 180 that I've done before in the past, doing it again. And my injury for the first time since it occurred seems to be manageable. It doesn't seem to hurt me anymore. Obviously I'm working with it, and the way I do my lifts now compared to when I got the 180 in the past is far stricter, because as I say, I had to strip it down, I had to work with my injuries, and so if I was to get 180 with the technique that I have now on bench press, that's probably worth 190, 200 with my own old technique. So I know I'm above and beyond where I am once I get to that 180 where I used to be. And from there, I won't feel like I'm playing catch up anymore. It'll be easy on the psyche to go, yeah, I know I'm making progress now. And I really do genuinely believe that I can get a 250 very easily on bench press once I start to peak and hit my maximum strength. So 250 kilos, roughly 551, 52 pounds, something like that, that's a good bench. I'll be very happy with that. And so that's my target. So because my back is hurting at the moment, I've also done my knee in as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. Basically, all I can do is bench. And I've got a clear plan in my head anyway where I'm going with the bench. I have done for years, and it's really tightening up now. And so really I'm just going to continue with the plan, which is using band work, cambered bar, working incline, decline, as well as flat bench. Doing all of this together combined will help me get through and above and beyond where normally I might kind of get stuck for a couple of months or whatever. I'll be able to hopefully just keep progressing over time, which is really where I want to go. So bench, I'm very clear what I want to do, because I've had 9 years to fucking cope with it, right? Squat, I've luckily never been badly hurt or anything. I've never messed up my squat. Squat to me is my passion. It's what I love to do the most. It's what my father got a world record in, and that is how I first started in weightlifting, was the intention to keep that record on the family, for me to take it from my father and make it my own, right? That is still my intentions, to go along that road, and I'm basically just going to keep repeating what I'm doing at the moment with squat. I'm thinking of expanding some of the equipment I've got in here. At the moment I can squat, I can do Bulgarian squat, I can do lunges, I can do leg extensions. I do have bands which I can add into the everything, and obviously I've got dumbbells, so I can do a variety of different leg exercises. The only thing at the moment that I can't do, because my lack of flexibility, and I've always been shit at holding the bar on my front, is front squat. And I feel that this would be something that would be advantageous to my lifting. So I might get, there's a couple of harnesses out there that allow you to basically hold the bar on your front without really having to get your hands underneath it. So I might invest in the next couple of months in one of those harnesses that allows me to do both front squat but also Zercher squats also. The Zercher squat would be, I feel, quite advantageous to helping with my developing my deadlift. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why I haven't committed to that harness yet, but why I'm seriously considering it. On top of that, what I'm going to start doing with my squat is I am going to start training a little bit more frequently with it. Not to benefit my squat as such, but to benefit my deadlift, because when it comes to deadlift, I'm going to have to be, I believe, changing my style to work with my skeleton, which has always seemed to work against me in the way that I've sort of deadlifted up to now. And so if I can, basically I'm going to have to go do sumo on deadlift, I believe. And I'll explain the reason behind that when I come to talk about deadlift. But if that is the case, what I might do is I might start doing squats outside of the cage, but with wide legs in a sort of similar position. This is in addition to my normal squats, so I'll do a second squat day in a week, where I actually do wide stance squats, to build up my hips and my legs for the starting point of obviously the sumo deadlift. So there was a loose plan regards to my squat there. As I say, I'm just going to keep really kind of doing what I've been doing since the very beginning on squat, because it's always worked. And my total aim for squat, and again, this is something that many people believe I can do even more on, is 350 kilograms, which is, I believe, just over 770 pounds. between 770 and 780. I haven't done the math yet to give you the exact figures, but you know, it gives you a rough aim if you're American and you use pounds. But yeah, 350 kilos is definitely a highly realistic target with my squat. And I want to get there quick, sooner rather than later. You know, I'm still pretty young, I'm 33, but you know, age is going to start going against me in the next 4 or 5 years. So I really need to try and sort of make as many inroads as possible up to that point whilst remaining injury free. As long as I remain injury free, I'll be able to go a lot longer than that, making progress. But obviously, you know, I've got to keep that in my head. It's not like I'm in my early 20s anymore. Finally, let's talk about deadlift. So this is my nemesis lift. It always has been since the very beginning. When I was 13, I was playing rugby. I played rugby to a very, 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 very high standard, to the point where at one point I was going to actually try out for the England youths at the time that when we won the World Cup for the first time. And you know, it's, as I say, I played it to a high level, and you know, rugby is, for me, I've got to admit, it's the most brutal sport out there regards injuries. It really takes its toll on your body, and even at a young age, you know, I took quite a bad injury to my lower back at the age of 13. Now, it healed up, and I continued playing rugby for about another 5 years after that before I had enough of the injuries, and I picked up other injuries along the path also. But the one that seems to be the most recurrent is my lower back injury. It impacts on me, and it always has. As soon as I started weightlifting, my lower back has always been there as a bit of an issue. It just pops up every now and then, and it can get to the point where my lower back goes completely, that I'm literally bedridden for 2-3 days. I can't get out of bed. I can't even roll over in bed because the pain is that much, and the weakness in my legs which comes with it is horrific. Maybe I should get this looked at one point and getting it fixed, much like I did with my shoulder. Yeah, okay, that's something that might happen in the future, but you know, if it can be fixed. But to be honest, I have certain times in my lifting career when it's never been a problem, it just hasn't popped up. I've had a lot of time where it's not caused me issue, and then all of a sudden it comes. Now, it comes mostly when I start making progress on the deadlift. It's deadlift that aggravates it more than anything else. Every now and then it comes, but it's quite light. But when it's really bad, it's the deadlift that really fucks me up. And I believe, obviously, when we look at deadlift, and I'll discuss this in detail when I come to start my new deadlift series, for me, it's because I try to do conventional. Conventional deadlift is my strongest style of deadlift. I don't like doing sumo. I'm not very strong at it, not that great at it. I haven't never really committed to it, but I find it a little bit awkward to do. Whereas conventional, I seem to be able to pull quite well. And so I kept trying to go back to it, but every time I kind of make any real progress with the conventional and the lifts start going up, that's when my back tends to go. Okay, so I've basically got to write conventional deadlift off, unfortunately. Now, one of the reasons for this is, again, I was speaking to a very advanced powerlifter, my dad actually. He was the first one to suggest it, but I do speak to some other competitive powerlifters, and they all agree that I've outgrown deadlift, conventional deadlift. If you look at my style just prior to when my back went, my legs are 38 inches around each leg, you know, so 76 inches of muscle essentially around my leg area, my upper thigh area, is a lot of muscle to try and fit in a very small area. So I've been having to spread my legs wider than say you should do for conventional, and keeping my hands on the outside of my knees, which is obviously the most comfortable place for me to do it. It's messed me up. It's thrown my hips out of alignment with obviously with my lower leg and my upper body. They're kind of gone out of alignment, and it's putting unnecessary stress on my lower back. Hence why it's aggravating my injuries more so than it ever has. So the way around this is to start adopting sumo on a full-time basis. Sumo style, which is wide stance deadlift, if you're not familiar with what sumo deadlift is. Because I've never really done sumo before, I've played around with it in the past, and when I did play around with it, I did for about a year. Did it most of 2020, and when I did it, I had no issues with my back. I had a whole year with no pain, not even a little niggle in my lower back. So you know what? That was a point at time when, and the reason I took it was because I hurt my back. That was an indication that sumo is the way to go for me. So what I'm going to do is I am going to fully commit to the sumo deadlift. It's something, as I say, that I'm relatively unfamiliar with, so something I'm going to have to work with almost as a beginner. I'm going to have to learn what works for me. The thing about deadlift is I'm quite traditional in my mindset. I'm quite rigid and logical. When I try to do something, I try to do it by the book. You know, you'll see when I do my squats, you know, I go very low. My A-frame that I form when you squat, which is a traditional way of lifting it, is very, very precise and tight. I like to be very precise in my training. When it comes to deadlift, you try to follow, you know, sort of guidelines and stuff, but really, ultimately with deadlift, you've got to be quite fluid. You've got to do what works for you. You've got to let your body speak to you, and you've got to let it go. That's what's comfortable. Now, obviously, I'm saying I'm going to be doing sumo deadlift. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll do a hybrid. Maybe I'll do conventional, but find a different way of doing it. But basically, I have been analysing it, and at this moment in time, I think sumo is the way to do it. However, what's always confused me about sumo is how wide do you put your legs? But ultimately, again, this is down to personal preference. And I think for me, wider the better, to the point where I'm worried about clipping my toes. Again, this will be in our deadlift series. So basically information on that series. It's going to be part of my training for Valhalla series. And it's going to be, but it's also going to be a sub-series also. So it will have its own, I haven't really kind of worked out what it is yet, what I'm going to call it. But basically, on deadlift, I am capable quite easily of doing 350 kilos on deadlift. Once I kind of get things right, work things out, and get it working for me, so it's not working against my skeleton, it's not working against my postural muscles, but everything's working together, I can do a 350. I know I can on deadlift. I know I can get a 350. Why? Because when I do a rack pull, a very low rack pull, I can do 300 very easy. In fact, on a high rack pull, I've done 400 kilos. I know once I get it past my knees, basically, that I've never failed a lift once it's got past the knees. Never in my entire time. Getting it to the knees is the hard point, right? That's where my sticking point is, regardless of whether I'm doing conventional sumo. So, what I need to do is work out how to get it to just above my knees, and then obviously then Bob's my uncle. You know, I need to do that reliably without but using up too much energy or strength to do so. So I've just got to work out basically my levers. I've got to work out what is a good lifting style for me, and really that's what's going to be in this series. So I'm probably going to call it like the road to 350 kilos or something like this, right? And it's basically going to be my journey from now until I hit 350 kilos on the deadlift. I'm going to be sharing with you everything. It's going to be a slightly different format to my training for Valhalla series, where I will be showing you, I'll show you most of my lifts on training for Valhalla, but because this is going to be harder for me, because it's a lot of trial and error, there's going to be more talking in it alongside the lifting than there normally is. And also, it's going to show you my failures to a much greater degree. I tend to show you my fails anyway, but obviously I don't fail too often in the other lifts. And sometimes, you know, I don't show you all my warm-ups because what's the point, you know, showing you me just doing an empty bar just to test whether there's injury. I don't always show you the boring stuff, basically. In this training series, I will. So it may be a little bit dry. It might be in points a little bit too academic for some people. But, you know, really, it's for me, it's a training journal for me to watch back and see where I'm going, and to also just voice my opinions. When you talk about stuff, sometimes it just makes more sense when you put it out loud rather than just keeping it in here. But I also hope that, you know, as I say, for the beginners out there, for those who've come back from a long break, those who've never really been taught how to deadlift, the mistakes and my own path of learning that I make in that series, I hope will be as beneficial to you as I hope it will be to myself also. I hope it will inspire and motivate others also to make the best of their potential. And so really, you know, it's not just going to include my deadlifts, it's going to show the accessory work that I do. That's the stuff that I tend to leave out, you know, like my bent over rows, my chins. I don't tend to film them, right? But I will be including them in this series. I will be including a little bit of my stretching regimes, that I am now doing. I stretch 30 minutes a day just on my hips and my legs. Obviously, I'm not going to be filming 30 minutes worth of stretches, but I'll give you a little insight on some of the stuff that I do for it. And I'll maybe even be discussing and showing some of my cardio that I do, which I never show on Training for Valhalla because, well, cardio is boring, right? But in this case, it's going to be an absolute necessity to me getting my body to where it needs to be. So that's the plan, guys. Things are changing around. It's been since, I know I always put my training videos up a little bit after, because the editing, it takes time. And sometimes I just can't be asked to edit the footage for a week or something like that. But basically, I haven't been able to train properly for about 3.5 weeks. I've been doing the odd little bit of bench press, which is what I'm going to do now after I've finished talking to you. And basically what I might do is I might specialise in bench for the next 2 to 4 weeks and not do anything but bench and upper body. I just need to keep away from deadlift and squat for the time being. I will be doing some leg workouts on my extensions, and I will be doing the odd little bit here and there, but I'm not going to stress my back again because it's gone 3 times over that 3.5 week period. It went, the first time it was my left side, then my right side went, and then yesterday, literally yesterday, both sides of my back went. And every time it goes, it takes at least another week for the pain to go where I can sleep without wearing a belt and stuff. I'm in horrific pain at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to belt up, I'm going to do some bench now, just play around. But this is the aim for the future. You're going to see, hopefully soon, the beginning of my deadlift series, okay? So keep your eyes open. If you want to watch my training videos, go into my playlists. You can click on training videos, which is one of my playlists. That's got literally every training video I've done over the years. I've got a Training for Valhalla series, which is a compilation of, it's a list of all my recent training videos with the recent sort of film style. And on top of that, I've also got I will be having this deadlift series also. So guys, that's it for now. I hope the update has sort of given you more idea why maybe not so many videos have come out recently. And I hope you're actually quite excited as I am. At the moment, I'm in pain. But there is a little spark of excitement there. You know, the embers haven't quite gone out. I've still got the spirit of a lifter, right? So I'm hoping to get a good bench workout in here to raise my spirits a little bit more. But in regards to deadlift, as I say, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and I don't see no fat lady around, right? So that's the plan. Cheers for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.